5 and 10 from Skywatch TV for Wednesday, April 9th, 2025. I'm Derek Gilbert. Just a short special report today as Sharon and I are preparing to head down to Blue Eye, Missouri for the Aliens, AI, and the Antichrist Conference, which begins tomorrow down there. We'll be on the panel for the Jim Bakker Family Show Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. We'll be speaking tomorrow afternoon about 2:30. Admission is free to the conference. We'll tell you more about that in just a minute. Today, the big story, of course, is, again, Trump's tariffs and the corporate media, the legacy media, spinning this as just an awful thing that Trump has triggered a trade war, a tariff war with other nations, especially China, which is one of our biggest trading partners in terms of imported goods. And one of the main reasons the U.S. trade imbalance, the trade deficit is so high for the last 40 years. Those who control our manufacturing industries, investment banks and bankers have been fine with hollowing out the American middle class, sending jobs, manufacturing overseas in order to line their pockets and not caring what happens on Main Street. The reason the Rust Belt here in the United States is called the Rust Belt is because the factories are rusting away because the things they used to make here are now being made in places like China, Vietnam, and Bangladesh. Well, the stock market has rallied somewhat this Wednesday morning. The Dow Jones Industrial Average, the S&P 500, the NASDAQ, all three are up. But as I've said, if you've watched this program for any length of time, you'd have heard me say this at least once or twice, that there's very little relationship between what happens on Wall Street and what's happening on Main Street. The Dow, when Sharon and I began podcasting 20 years ago, was around 10,000. It had just broken through the 10,000 mark. And before Trump's trade announcement last week, his Liberation Day trade tariff announcement, the stock market had just hit, the Dow Jones, that is, 40,000. Now, is the U.S. economy 4 times stronger than it was back in 2005? No. The Dow Jones will remove companies that aren't performing as well as they like because they're dragging down the index, and they'll replace them with other stocks that are doing very well to make it look as though stock market keeps going up, 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 up. And of course, you've got the added trillions of dollars in cash that have been just printed by the US Treasury and the Federal Reserve Bank and flooded into the economy, which means since money is just a commodity like anything else, the more of them there are in circulation, the less they're worth. It's not that the value of your home is really increased by, 50, 100% since you bought it. It's just that it takes more pieces of little green paper to buy it because each one is worth less than it used to be. The other story, which is not really being picked up on by the legacy media, and this is one of the reasons I read Zero Hedge every day, zerohedge.com. They report on items, a wide range of news sources, but they do focus a lot on the economy. And they're talking about what's called the basis trade. These are speculators that will make money by exploiting the difference in yields between Treasury bonds, U.S. Treasury bonds, which are sold by the U.S. Treasury to finance the federal debt. They'll buy the bonds and at the same time sell futures contracts because the futures are selling for more than the current cash value of the Treasury bond. And they are hoping that over time, the value of the futures contract will decline before they have to deliver on the contract or close their position. And then when they do, assuming it's come back down to the cash value or something near it, the value between what they sold it for originally and what they're closing their position at is their profit. The problem is when Treasury yields go up. And that's what's been happening over the last week since President Trump announced his tariffs on our trading partners. So those who are heavily invested in these the basis or the basis trade, especially because they tend to borrow the money that they're using to invest. Some of these companies are leveraged 9, 10, even up to 100 times what they've invested. In other words, they'll buy something for $100 and borrow 99. When the Treasury yields go up, they then are hit with margin calls, legal requirements that say, okay, look, you've got to pay on some of this stuff because what you owe now is a lot more than what you borrowed and you've got very little skin in the game. So they've got to start liquidating things at a loss in order to cover their positions, cover their positions. And this is leading to a liquidity problem in the U.S. economy. And so now the Federal Reserve is facing a problem. Fed Chair Jerome Powell either allows this liquidity problem to spread to investment banks and then to commercial banks where we put our money, a cascade effect, or jump in, bail out these hedge funds that are invested in the basis trade and make it look as though he's bailing out Donald Trump, because the Democrats and the legacy media want to blame Trump for the fear of the investors, which is what's driving what's happening in the basis trade. So we'll keep an eye on this. Again, we will be in Blue Eye, Missouri from later today through Sunday morning. And if you're in the Ozarks, we invite you to join us. Now, you do need to call ahead, even though admission is free. Speakers for this conference, by the way, include Sharon and me, of course, our good friends Joe Artis Horn, host of Skywatch TV, Donna Howell, host of The Donna Howell Show, also part of Skywatch TV, our good friend Vicki Joy Anderson, author of the excellent book, They Only Come Out at Night, Carl Gallups, L.A. Marzulli will be sending a video message in, Alan DiDio, who's this week's guest on Skywatch TV, Dave Robbins of End Time Ministries, Dr. Dennis Lindsay, Joseph Z, and more. You can find out all you need to know. The information is at readynowexpo.com, and that includes who you contact to find out if seating is still available. Seating is limited, which is why you do need to register before just showing up, because fire code regulations, you can't put more people in a building than is allowed by law. If you can't be here, streaming video is available. Again, Sharon and I will be speaking tomorrow afternoon between, I think, 2 p.m. It's 2 p.m. to 3:30 p.m. We've got a 90-minute segment there. We'll essentially be doing a live version of our podcast and talking about our latest book, The Gates of Hell. But in the context of the whole theme of the conference, which again is aliens, AI, and the Antichrist. And again, information and registration at readynowexpo.com. We'll try to update you through the weekend, but if we don't have the opportunity to do it, we will see you again for certain on Monday. And until then, I'm Derek Gilbert. Special update for 5 and 10 from Skywatch TV.
You can support the ministry of Skywatch TV in our continued efforts to share the gospel of Jesus Christ throughout the 4 corners of the world and receive your very own copy of this urgent new work when you order They Lied to You About the Rapture special offer. Not only does this incredible opportunity include Bishop Alan DiDio's new book, They Lied to You About the Rapture, How to Prepare for What's Coming, but it also includes the best-selling book, Antichrist and the Final Solution, the chronology of the future finally unveiled by the late Dr. Thomas Horn and Terry James. This incredible book details the rise of the Antichrist along with key biblical events, including the signing of a peace treaty with Israel, the construction of a third temple, and the unfolding of the seals, trumpets, and bowls from Revelation. This masterpiece also unveils the final solution, involving the return of the Nephilim giants, the battle of Armageddon, the truth about heaven, hell, and your destiny in the coming days. But that's not all. You'll also receive Terry James' best-selling book, Nearing Midnight, as it was in the days of Lot, that pinpoints all the biblical signs leading to the true countdown to humanity's end, and the blessed hope of Christ's imminent return. Sold separately, these items hold a retail value of $60. Yours now for your donation of only $45, which includes free shipping to all U.S. orders. You can scan the QR code on your screen using the camera app on your phone for instant access to this special opportunity. You can also visit us at skywatchtvstore.com or call 1-844-750-4985 and ask for They Lied to You About the Rapture special offer now.